Hey guys, welcome to our first chill episode. So, just to quickly make sure everybody's on the same page, arksurvivalevolved is a dinosaur survival video game, hence the name, that sort of went off the radar a couple years ago. Like, official servers were turned off and they stopped releasing updates for the game. Recently, a sort of revival was announced for arksurvivalevolved in the form of a new DLC, Aquatica. The publishing company for Ark, Snail Games, made the mistake of releasing an AI-generated cinematic trailer for Aquatica, and I will be jumping on the bandwagon of critiquing said AI-generated trailer. I do want to have a brief discussion at the start of the episode about AI, and then we'll talk about a redesign for the trailer that I'll be storyboarding in the background throughout the video. So if you want a more straightforward answer for my 2 cents on Aquatica, I'll go ahead and actually give a straightforward answer. But if you guys want to stick around for the redesign talk, I'd appreciate that. I have 3 things that I'll say though. First of all, I think Aquatica looks absolutely hideous. Well, their cinematic trailer, I mean. Although I wasn't too impressed with the rendering on their normal trailer either. Anyway, a lot of people have been saying the Ark Aquatica AI trailer looks hideous because it's AI. And that's true, there's truth to that. But it's also hideous from a cinematography angle. And I don't hear enough people bringing that up. The entire trailer for Aquatica could be summed up in a single sentence, or maybe 2 if you really need to. We see a shot of 6 different environments, each of which is showcased through a camera panning in or out, with a person swimming towards or away from us. Not a lot to say about it. The next thing I'll say is that I'm suspicious that 90% of the environments we actually see in this trailer aren't actually going to end up existing. Now, I can easily believe that we're going to get a kelp trench or a ripoff of the island water cave, but not so much the those avatar trees or that cenote looking thing or the a lot of the underwater ruins. The next thing I have to say is that I don't think Aquatica was ever actually a good idea. Now, granted, I'll allow room for some accidental bias here. That I didn't know Aquatica was going to exist until after the AI trailer happened. The thing is that Aquatica is going to have some fierce competition. Now, obviously, the first competition that comes to mind, naturally, is going to be Subnautica. This is a survival game that, if my experience is anything to go by, Steam really likes to recommend this to Ark players. But okay, the inner competition is more what I wanted to talk about. First of all, they're competing with themselves, because this, what they've shown of Aquatica so far looks an awful lot like the oceans on, for instance, the Genesis map. Genesis maps, part 1 and 2. They have competition from the modding community in a sense. If memory serves, we have about almost 1,000 creature mods, and around 1,900 map mods. Now, those 2 might be flipped. They would have to bring something really special to the table for people to actually want them. Let's move on to talking about AI. AI is a surprisingly divisive topic. It's not surprising that people have strong opinions on it. What's surprising is just the range of opinions you can find. Obviously, the 2 polar opposite types of perspectives are people who are absolutely not to AI, and then people who are totally AI all the way. And you have the third section of people who are it's situational. I think the things that people hear most often or expect to hear most often when this type of debate comes up is the AI saves time and money, and because time is money, AI is actually saving double money. Not a very appreciated approach from the general community. But there is another perspective to people who are excited about AI. The idea that this is new and exciting, so of course we're going to want to further our understanding of it. Another way people can look at it, or people like to look at it, is if somebody's like trying to solo a massive project that's going to take years, they can't afford to hire a team, then I would be sympathetic to them being really excited about AI, because all of a sudden they have a potential partner for their project. I can be sympathetic to that. But let's move on to the people who have less friendly feelings about AI. This perspective seems to be common among artists and teachers. I can understand why artists' first response to new technology is to be wary of it, especially with the fact that in the online era, artists have had to be so careful about having their work stolen by bots. So artists have had to be working on defenses against that for a while, and all of a sudden we need to worry about AI that can replicate our art and our art style. So yeah, I'm sympathetic to artists being nervous. Another thing is that, let's be truthful, people are like weirdly disrespectful of artists for how much they actually like the work that we make. If you're making commissions, you're going to run into at least one person who gets mad about the price you're asking for like a commission, and okay, I'll allow for the fact that sometimes they have a fair point, but other times it's more like, well, you're asking me to do a really difficult and time-consuming project. Like, these people who want the art for free, they now have a way to get the art for free. I understand the debate around that. But believe it or not, I'm not actually anti-AI. I guess let's move over to the situational talk now for AI. I have used AI before for this channel to build randomizers, and I'm very transparent about that. I also have used it as tech support before, because sometimes the Adobe Help Q&A just isn't cutting it. So that kind of stuff I'm totally cool with. I'm like, yeah, makes sense. We know what place AI should have in the art world, and that's as an assistant, but not as like a making all the art stuff. But long explanation short, what you have in between your keyframes is something that you can computer generate. If you give, for instance, Adobe Animate 2 keyframes, it will try to, and if you set up a tween, or in other words, in between, with a modifier, it will try to figure out what the two missing, or like what the missing frames are supposed to look like. I could see AI being a way to have a smarter version of this. So you could be like, so you could animate less keyframes and just tell the animation software, hey, by the way, there's lightning flashing or there's rain falling throughout these tween frames. So you need to have that happening too. Or even for physics simulations, instead of like messing around with the decimal, if you could just have a little computer assistant and be like, hey, so by the way, here's a description of the physics I'm trying to achieve. And if the computer could just tell you, okay, so this is roughly the range of numbers you want to look in for that, that would be awesome. So yeah, I do think AI has a place in the art and the animation world. I just don't think we should be going overboard on it. And yeah. Now let's, I guess, talk about my trailer redesigns. So the first one you saw, I'm not perfect. I couldn't figure out how to do a high angle looking down for this. That's why the camera is actually on the storyboard, which is not what you would normally do. Now, I will say that I do think the environments need work. As it is when I first saw that kelp forest, I did accidentally, in a previous recording, say that was a Subnautica thing, not Aquatica, but either way, like I said, I'm not going to be redesigning the environments for this episode. I do think I would have liked to see some creative camera angles. That's why, okay, that one's less creative and more just kind of fun, but the, like, slightly bobbing along a river as you look back thing, this one was, oh my gosh, if this was an animation, this would be awesome. So the whole idea is that someone's swimming down into this ruins area, and they see it upside down, and then they flip to the proper side. And then I'm assuming that this is supposed to be a boss arena, hence the Kraken showing up. It's interesting that Aquatica seems to be sort of based on Greece, but also has it seems to have Greek architecture with inspirations with those columns, but it also seems to have cenotes, which are really cool. That's a sinkhole that has filled with water, I think, is like the proper definition or description. It would be really cool to theorize about this map, but I can't come up with anything to really theorize about for this. What I'm designing right now is a alternative to what we saw for the boss arena. So in this case, they're entering the boss arena, which is this frame right here. Then they start to go towards it, and then they see this Kraken coming out of the water. It comes out a lot more than my drawing would imply. They see this Kraken come out of the water, and they start running back towards the terminal while all the dinos they brought to the boss fight start running towards it. A little bit more, cinematic than what we see. No promises, but maybe a few months from now I will go ahead and have an animated version of this. Just because I don't know about the level of technical level of difficulty here. It would be not 3D animated, because I definitely can't do that yet, or in 3 months. But yeah, I guess we'll see. See all you guys on Saturday. Bye.